Hey guys, what's going on? How's everybody doing? Mitch, Eddie, happy to have you guys. We look, this is an impromptu live stream. We weren't planning on doing one today, and it's going to be relatively short, maybe an hour max. We're just going to take chat comments today, no call-ins. But next week we will. Next week we'll kind of prepare better and be able to do call-in shows and really break down everything. But we all know what just happened. The first set of college football playoff rankings were released, and they were god-awful. They were absolutely terrible. So that's why we're here today. We're here for about the next hour or so, 45 minutes to an hour or so. We're going to break down our thoughts on the rankings. You know, we put out our rankings yesterday. Our rankings came out yesterday, and we did that on purpose so we could kind of see how we stacked up with the committees. And once again, they have disappointed, much like they have for the past 7 years now. It's been pretty rough. So thank you guys all so much for joining us today. I know it was very short. There was no notice. And again, we're not going to be here too long, but we are here to take any questions, comments, and share as many thoughts as we can for about the next hour or so. So Mitch, Eddie, Joe Mama, Keto, hey, happy to have you, man. It's been a while. It has been a while, Keto. Hope you're doing well. And I'm kind of stuck up here at school, believe it or not. My whole family down in around the Little Rock area, they've got COVID. My whole family's got COVID, so I am up here in still on campus for Thanksgiving. So gonna take that as you will, and I'm taking that as I can. And unfortunate circumstances, but hopefully that they're all doing all right. They're getting by. So hopefully we'll be able to go home very soon, since the college up here isn't requiring students to come back after Thanksgiving break, like I'm sure many of your schools are, or maybe your kids are, or whoever it may be. So wild times, guys, wild times. 2020 just keeps getting crazier and crazier, but we're making it. We're making it. Couldn't be happier. Couldn't be thrilled with where we're headed. So let's go ahead. Let's talk some football. And again, I'm so happy to have everybody on here with us, and I appreciate you guys for hopping on with us tonight. These playoff rankings, I want to get to your chats and your comments here in a second, but these playoff rankings were horrible. They were really, really, really bad. And the way I look at it right now, guys, and what I'm very, very frustrated with is for the past few years, it just feels like the committee does these rankings just to rank the top 4 teams. And then after that, they disregard everybody else, if that makes sense. I know the point of the playoff and the point of this committee is to get the best 4 teams into the playoff. That was the whole reason this thing started back in 2014. I understand that. But if that was the case, if that was the only reason we were ranking these teams, we could have a 5-minute long show on ESPN. You could get an alert on your phone. Here are your top 4 teams with the week and move on. But they don't do that. They draw it out for 25 teams, and every single one of these teams matters. It matters for the individual programs, and it matters for those elite teams up at the top because, like they mentioned over and over again tonight, Cincinnati, who we'll talk on in a second, the Bearcats, they have to play Tulsa maybe twice. Tulsa cracked the top 25. Teams that are ranked, they can help other teams' resumes within that top 25. It goes a long way, and that could go a long way for Cincinnati if the Bearcats are able to get that win. So they matter. Everybody outside the top 4 matters, and it doesn't feel like the playoff committee does that. And when they do, it feels like they just go brain dead when doing so. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I want to look at a few of your comments real quick. We'll touch on those. We'll share my thoughts, and then we'll kind of go from there. So Scott made a good point. Georgia's too high. We'll touch on that in a second. I do agree with that, though. Clemson over Ohio State. Thoughts on that? I don't have much of an issue with that, as they were saying a lot on the selection show or in the top 25 show, if you watched it. If Clemson had played this weekend, if Florida State hadn't have bailed, and they bailed, it wasn't because of COVID. They genuinely bailed. If they don't do that, Clemson murders Florida State. Ohio State only beats Indiana by 7. I get Indiana's way better than Florida State, but more than likely Clemson would have been ranked higher than them anyways. So I don't have much of an issue with that. I thought it was interesting. I did, just considering Clemson didn't play. You can't base rankings off of hypotheticals, but I don't have much of an issue with that. And as I said, that'll sort itself out. If Ohio State keeps winning, they're going to make the top 4. Clemson and Notre Dame still have to play more than likely in the ACC title game. That will sort itself out. So I'm not too worried about that. Top 4 are the top 4 teams we expected them to be. The only switch up was Clemson being above Ohio State. But we correctly predicted really the top 7 teams. And that was to be expected. When we released our rankings the other day, we said the top 7 or 8 shouldn't be disputed. The 8th team was BYU, and they dropped all the way down to 14th. And we'll touch on them in a second as well. Very, very interesting why they chose to move them down. So Hunter Shin. Yeah, Hunter, happy to have you, man. BYU at 14. What's wrong with this committee? Well, there's a lot of things wrong with the committee. If you've been watching us, guys, for the past, we're going into our 4th year now. It's kind of hard to believe, but 4th year now at the Gridiron Expert. You know we've never been a fan of the College Football Playoff Committee. We've always had issues with them. Tonight was no exception. The reason BYU dropped so far, all the way to 14th, and many people might not understand, is obviously strength of schedule. Their best win was over a Boise State squad that had major quarterback issues. Bachmeier didn't play, and then they have Jack Sears. He was supposed to play, and then he got hurt. So all those guys got hurt, and Boise State wasn't up to par. I still think had they been at full strength, BYU would have won, but that doesn't help their case any. So their strength of schedule simply was not there, but BYU has dominated every game they've been in. So I definitely agree that BYU being at 14th is way too low. I look at that. I know you could say, would they beat Iowa State? Would they beat Indiana? Would they beat Oklahoma? I don't know. If you put them on a neutral site, I really don't know. I think it'd be close in all of those. But it's very disrespectful, I think, to put them all the way down at 14th. But we've seen this happen before. Go look at, Central Florida a few years ago. In the AP rankings, they were up as high as, 8th, 7th, 6th. First set of playoff rankings come out. They dropped around the 15th mark because their strength of schedule wasn't there. And that's exactly what we're seeing with BYU tonight. Interesting, though, that they would fall all the way to 14th while Cincinnati stayed at number 7. So what this tells me is the committee genuinely believes that Cincinnati is a playoff contender. And I do too. I believe they are. I think they're a very complete team. And yeah, I know Cincinnati's got better wins than BYU. Cincinnati beat Central Florida. They beat Memphis. They beat SMU. They beat Army. And they're in their conference, the American Athletic, that some consider to be a Power 6, up there as a power conference. So they're undefeated and they're winning convincingly in those games. I get why they're 7th, although I'm surprised they stayed there. I could have seen them dropping all the way to maybe 10th. But 7th, that's right on the outside looking in, guys. They are right there in the middle. And to think that, Alabama or Florida is going to lose when they play in the SEC title game, Notre Dame and Clemson is going to lose when they play in the Big Ten or ACC title game. Ohio State could slip up to Northwestern. Maybe Northwestern slips up before that. Cincinnati needs help to get in. But being at number 7, they were in a very, very good spot. And again, they have that win against, or potential win against Tulsa, who's a ranked team, and that's going to help out their resume. So very, very interesting. See what else we have here. Eddie Rose, yes, Eli Drinkwitz did prove me wrong. He did. He's doing better than expected. Isaac, what do I think the odds of Gators going to the playoff are? Look, they got to beat Alabama. I can't give you odds. I can just tell you what they have to do. They have to win out. That includes a win over Alabama in the SEC title game. You do that, they're in. If they don't, then they lose, and then they don't get in. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now is Florida wins out, they're in the playoff. If they lose one more game, even if it's to Alabama in the title game, they're out. They don't get in. No doubt about it. Eddie, you make a good point here. The committee is a joke. They need to go have a new group. What's funny about this is they rotate. That's what blows my mind is every year they have term limits. It's like politics. The College Football Playoff Committee has term limits. They have, I think, a 2-year limit. 2-year limit for their members. So someone that's on this committee right now was not on the initial playoff committee. So every year we have new members. Every year, every 2 years, we have a brand new set of members. And yet somehow they continue to find a way to screw things up. They continue to find a way to be wrong, horribly wrong. And it just doesn't make sense. And I know what some might say. They might say, well, they're getting the top 4 teams, right? By season's end, as long as they get the top 4 teams, isn't that all that matters? Kinda. Again, if that was the case, then just rank the top 4 teams. Don't rank anybody else. But again, the rest of those rankings matter. They absolutely matter. Joe Mama, do I think NC is too high? North Carolina, I do. I had North Carolina in at 25th in our rankings. The fact that they're up at 19th, way too high. You're telling me this is a top 20 team? A top 20 team that allowed, 52 points to Wake Forest? They got murdered on the road against Florida State? No, this is not a top 20 team. North Carolina is good, and they can prove to me they are a top 20 team if they beat Notre Dame on Friday. I think North Carolina could beat a handful of teams they're above right now in the rankings, but I would not have ranked them 19th in the country. I think it's a little ridiculous, a little too high there. Yeah, Mitch, I am in full agreement with you. Don't get how Oklahoma is ahead of Iowa State. Iowa State beat them. And you're right. I think that the OU factor, the name recognition, Mitch, you and I have talked about that, especially when it comes to individual player awards. It goes a long way. That was one of the things that really caught my eye was this playoff committee prides themselves on, we like to honor the head-to-head results. We sit there and we say, if you won head-to-head, we're going to honor that, assuming you're about even. And here we are with Oklahoma and Iowa State, both with 2 losses this year, but Iowa State winning the head-to-head matchup over the Sooners. And yet Oklahoma's above them, 11th for the Sooners, Iowa State at 13. I was appalled by that, and I think it's extremely wrong. That was one of the topics I was going to talk about. You can't hold this double standard, all right? You can't have one set of teams up here saying, and I'm not saying they don't deserve this, but let's use A&M and Florida as an example. A&M's 5th, Florida's 6th because of the head-to-head result. Those are about 2 even teams. So you can't tell me that and then have Iowa State and Oklahoma and say, well, Oklahoma, they beat Oklahoma State really bad on Saturday, so we're going to give them that extra edge over Iowa State. No, there should be no double standards in this. No double standards. I don't care what conference you're in. I don't care how great you've been in the past. I don't care who's on your team. Head-to-head results should matter. And again, the playoff committee contradicting themselves. They do that a lot. And they're doing that again now with the Sooners and the Cyclones. That blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. I had Iowa State at 13th in our ranking, so I think that's the perfect spot for them. I had Oklahoma right behind them at 14th. So they were neck and neck. But I honored that head-to-head result. The committee did not. Very, very wrong. Stewie, my thoughts on Texas A&M? Look, they're 5th in the country. They're 5th in the country for a reason. I'm ready to see them back out on the field. Hopefully their game against LSU will get played this weekend. And they're a playoff contender. They're just in a very odd spot because sitting at number 5 right now and being in the same division as Alabama, they're not going to go play in the SEC championship game. But that's a given because they don't even own the tiebreaker over Alabama. They already lost the Crimson Tide. So A&M just needs some help, really, is what we're looking at here. And honestly, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens because Notre Dame or Clemson is going to lose in the ACC championship game, assuming they do meet. So if Florida loses to Alabama in the SEC title game, that gives Alabama a spot. Let's just say Ohio State wins against Northwestern in the Big Ten championship game. Ohio State's in. Let's just say Clemson beats Notre Dame. Clemson's in. A&M wins out. So then who do you put in? You've got the scenario of a 1-loss Texas A&M team, a potential 1-loss Notre Dame team, a potential undefeated Cincinnati team. Who do you put in for that 4th spot? And my gut honestly tells me it would be Texas A&M. My gut tells me it would be A&M. Not saying I agree with that, but knowing how this committee operates, knowing how political the committee is, knowing the power of the SEC, my gut tells me that if you had a 1-loss Notre Dame who lost by a touchdown or less to Clemson in the ACC title game, even though they beat Clemson in the regular season, an undefeated Cincinnati team won the American Athletic, and a 1-loss Texas A&M team, I believe the Aggies would get in. I'm not saying that's the right call, but that's probably what would happen. Isaac, I do believe Florida has a chance against Alabama. I 100% do. It's going to be a great quarterback battle between Kyle Trask and Mac Jones. Will Burrow, good to see you, my man. Do I think the top 4 will be the same as it is now when the season ends? I don't. It's kind of like we were just saying, say Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State all take care of business. I don't think Notre Dame stays in. So I think A&M could slip in there. Maybe you make a case for Cincinnati. And look, we got some competition now, guys. Northwestern's the real deal. Northwestern's the real deal. And I will preach that up until the Big Ten championship game. Indiana forced 3 turnovers off of Justin Fields. All right. Indiana has a pretty dang good defense, but I would venture to say that Northwestern's defense is a little bit better. So if Indiana in Columbus can play Ohio State as well as they did, no doubt in my mind that Northwestern can play Ohio State pretty close at a neutral site. Northwestern can beat Ohio State. I'm not saying they will, but they can. Don't rule out the Wildcats. Don't rule out Florida against Alabama. Don't rule out Notre Dame in a rematch against Clemson. So there's a lot of possibilities for these top four that could happen here in a few weeks. I mean, in years past, we've looked at the top four and we've like, there's no way, Alabama's going to lose. There's no way Clemson's going to lose. No way Ohio State's going to lose. This year, they can. So it's definitely not set in stone. I think you're going to see, at the least, you will see one new team in the top four that's not in there right now. That's kind of my prediction as of right now. Emperor of Rome, good to see you, man. It's been a while. Been busy, and that's another thing too, guys. Like I said, we'll be on here for about an hour. We're up here now, quarantining in a way, and I do want to apologize again before we keep going. We haven't done many live streams this year. We haven't done many call-in shows. We haven't done many, just chats like this, and hopefully we're going to get more of those done over the next few weeks as we continue to progress near Selection Sunday, which I believe is on December 20th. It's been a wild ride, been a wild year, wild semester, as I'm sure it has been for many of you guys as well. So we've been able to produce content regularly throughout the year, but live streams have just been, they were put on the back burner for a little while. And it's one of my favorite things to do. I know it is for y'all too, but it's just kind of been hectic, always something going on. But we're happy to be here now, happy to get here now and able to talk with you guys. So Emperor of Rome, happy to have you here. Corey O'Connor, if Notre Dame, Alabama, and Ohio State went out, would they put in Cincinnati or A&M? And kind of like I was saying, I think that's going to go towards A&M. I genuinely do. Even though Cincinnati would be undefeated, I think A&M would get in. Let's see. How do I feel about Oregon? Oregon came in at what, 15th? 15th. I had them at 10th, and I know a couple people said that was too high. Obviously, it was. Oregon's in a tough spot. But I think the committee made a statement tonight saying that we know Oregon's the best team in the Pac-12. Oregon at 15, USC at 18. We know Oregon's the best team in the Pac-12, but we do not view them as college football playoff contenders. Even if Oregon were to win the Pac-12 over a USC team that maybe cracks the top 15. So you can have number 10 Oregon, number 15 USC in the Pac-12 championship game. It's not going to matter for either playoff hopes. They're just not getting in. And that was going to be an issue anyways with the shortened schedule for the Pac-12. I know they just announced they would be able to do some non-conference games. So if Oregon is somehow able to go out there and find themselves a couple of quality non-conference opponents, maybe they can help that resume, but that's a long way out. They are a long way removed from even the top 6 discussion for the playoffs. So I think they're a little low. I think this team's better than 15th. I really do. But they've started slow. And that's going to hurt them a little bit as well. But 3-0, probably will run the table, go undefeated. I have them as my Pac-12 champs. But I think the highest they can get this year is probably 8th, unless we just see utter chaos over the next few weeks. Continuing to scroll through here. As James and Scott and everybody else has mentioned, go ahead and make sure to like the live stream, guys. Go hit that thumbs up button. We got 36 guys on the chat, so appreciate that already. But yeah, make sure to hit that like button. We really appreciate that. And that goes a long way. It doesn't sound like it, but the like button helps us, helps our live streams and videos pop up on recommended videos and recommended sections for other guys out there. So help us out with that. Yeah, Emperor of Rome, my thoughts exactly. WTF, you said that. Another guy said that. Hunter said that earlier. What are these rankings? And I agree. Is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke? It's really shocking. Really, really shocking. We'll touch more on it in a second. Cole Converse. Hawkeyes being ranked due to Barta being the chair. Very possible. Iowa's athletic director is the College Football Playoff Committee chair. The Hawkeyes are 3-2. They come in at 24th in these rankings. They beat Michigan State. They beat Penn State. And there was one other win in there that I'm blanking on that I think they got Nebraska this week. There's one other win in their 3-game winning streak that I'm blanking on that they were able to defeat. But they lost to Purdue and they lost to Northwestern. So I agree. I don't think Iowa's a top 25 team. the committee chairs are supposed to be biased or unbiased. They're supposed to put on these like white lab coats to show we've cleansed ourselves of our loyalties to our individual schools. And for the past 6-7 years, we know that has not been the case. Iowa State, major motivation now with Oklahoma ahead of them. BYU ranked way too low. I think we touched on BYU earlier. We do agree the Cougars are ranked too low. 14th, kind of disrespectful to Kalani Sitake and the Cougars. But again, that strength of schedule, we knew was going to come back to bite them. We've been saying all year long, BYU is a dang good football team. We've known that. They're a dang good football team. But we've been saying for weeks now, they're not playoff contenders. They're just not. Unless utter chaos happens, they're not going to make it. Their strength of schedule just isn't good enough. Now, in a normal year, if they've been able to play, look at last year, they played Washington, they played USC, a guy like that. If they're able to get those games, I think they played Tennessee last year. You get those games on their schedule this year and they win those games, yeah, they're top 10, maybe top 8, and they're playoff contenders. But the strength of schedule this year just wasn't there. And, there were rumors they were trying to schedule a game against Washington. BYU says it wasn't able to work out. Washington said it's because BYU doesn't want to play because they're scared. And that BYU also wanted to see where they fell in the initial rankings. Like if we're super high, why would we risk playing Washington? If we're super low, maybe we'll agree to play. It's this huge debacle. Here's my thing. I would be embarrassed. To be a coach or a player to back out of any game. I don't care if I'm undefeated or if I am winless. I don't care if I'm waiting to see where I'm ranked or if I know where I'm ranked. If, I really love the game of football and I am a team like BYU in their position, why would you ever back out of a game? Why would you ever say, no, we don't want to play? Or we'll play you, but under our circumstances, under our rules. You got to come to us or whatever it is. That's pitiful. Right off the bat, you're acting out of fear. And I'm not saying that's exactly what happened with BYU. I'm not saying that's what happened with them. I'm not saying that's what happened with Florida State either, although I do think that was out of fear. But look, if you are a true football player, if you're a true football coach, you will play a game. You will not back down from a challenge, and you will take every opportunity you can get to play, especially in a wild year like this where so many games have been canceled or postponed. There are tons of teams out there that would kill to play. So if you've got someone coming after you and saying, hey, you want to play this weekend? You say, no, we're too scared, or oh, let's wait and see where we're ranked. Come on. That's ridiculous. It's pitiful. Again, not saying that's what happened. Isaac, what do I think about a 6-team playoff? Best 2 teams get a bye. There were rumors that we're going to expand the playoffs this year, because of everything that's been going on, all these postponements and cancellations and, lack of schedules for some people. I would have been for it. This was the year to do it. This was the year to expand the playoff 100% to 6, to 8, whatever you want to do. You could have gone back to 4 next year. But, for years, ever since its inception back in, 2014, people have been wanting to be expanded. This was the perfect opportunity to make it happen. Because if it works, maybe you can move to it full time. If it doesn't work, you don't like it, we did it just for 1 year because it was a crazy year. And the circumstances were crazy for so many teams across the country. Then next year you go back to 4. But the playoff committee, again, was extremely stubborn, did not use much logic, and maybe let the college football world down in that sense. I have been for playoff expansion since the beginning. I've never really viewed the top 4 as much of a playoff anyways. I think it'd be better off if you did 6 or 8. But so it goes. There's nothing really you can do about it. Scott, I agree. Ohio State must watch out for Northwestern. Big Ten title game is certainly not a given. Certainly not a given. Nathan Bryant, what changes if Ohio State loses to Northwestern? If Northwestern wins out, which I think they will up until Ohio State, then Northwestern gets in the playoff, no doubt about it. So, that's pretty cut and dry. That is pretty cut and dry. If Northwestern wins out, they got Michigan State, Minnesota, and Illinois, all of those very winnable. They win those 3 games. They beat Ohio State. They're 8th in the country right now. There's no way the playoff committee leaves out an undefeated Northwestern squad that does have a win over Ohio State, does have a win over Wisconsin, does have a win over Iowa. No way they're left out. So, but Northwestern, like Cincinnati, 1 loss ruins those teams. I think if Northwestern loses one, say they lost to Michigan State this upcoming Saturday, but then beat Ohio State, I don't think they get in. I really don't. So I think Northwestern has to run the table to get themselves in that top 4. Eddie, I will be watching a little college basketball tomorrow. Definitely will be watching a little bit. Not a whole lot. I'm a big college basketball fan, don't get me wrong, but I'm usually not able to focus all my attention, shift all my attention to that until football's over. That certainly takes first priority and top priority. But I will be watching some. I'm very excited about it. Hey, Tef, how's it going, my man? Hey, I enjoyed talking to you the other day, and glad to see you here on the live stream, too. So happy to have you. Happy to have all 50 of you now. Happy to have all 50 of you now joining us again. So if you haven't liked the video, make sure to do that. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed to us. We've got a Texas-Iowa State preview coming out tomorrow. Got an Iron Bowl preview coming out on Friday. A recap on Sunday, and then we're going to get right back to it. Our rankings, live streams, everything like that, starting over next week. So much coming your way. If you love college football, this is the place for you. And I think a lot of the guys in the chat would say the same. Cole, if the Mountaineers beat Oklahoma, do they get in the rankings despite having 0 road wins? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. If they beat Oklahoma, they do get in the rankings. West Virginia was kind of on the outside looking in for me anyways. But you beat what is now the 11th ranked team in the country, you're in. Because keep in mind, West Virginia has at the time, it was a very good win over Kansas State as well. I know the Wildcats have kind of fell off since that loss, but you'd have a dominating win over Kansas State. You'd have a dominating win over, or maybe possible dominating win over Oklahoma. So, yeah, West Virginia would get in probably around the 22nd to 25th mark in between there, but they'd be ranked. Andrew, Georgia in the top 10 is outrageous. Yeah, I want to talk on that for a second. I'm going to make sure to get to everybody's comments here. Don't you worry. But, yeah, I'm very, very appalled by Georgia being in the top 10. Look, I had Georgia ranked 15th. And I know I said that might be a little low, but Georgia is by no means a top 10 team. Tell me how. Tell me how they are. Their 2 biggest games this year, to Alabama and Florida, they were blown out. They were not in the game in the fourth quarter. It did not come down to the very end. They were blown out by Alabama and Florida, their 2 biggest games. Kirby Smart was so stubborn with his quarterback that he didn't choose to start JT Daniels till last week against Mississippi State. And then against Mississippi State, they were tied, Georgia was, with a 2-win Bulldogs team almost midway through the fourth quarter before they finally scored a touchdown to beat a Mississippi State squad that had 49 scholarship players playing in that game, just 49, beat them by 7, 31-24. Tell me how that's top 10 caliber. I get some teams slip up every now and then. You know, some games are closer than you expect and maybe than they should be. So I'm not saying that one bad performance should dictate Georgia's rankings, but it wasn't just one bad performance. 2 bad losses to Alabama, Florida, the bad performance to Mississippi State, a lackluster performance against a bad Kentucky team. Tell me how this is a top 10 team. What I think happened is I think the committee saw JT Daniels play. He played extremely well against Mississippi State, the only reason that Georgia was able to win that game. They saw that. They realized the team that Georgia can be now that he is their quarterback. So they thought, okay, we'll jump him up at number 9. Let's throw him in at number 9 because now they've got a quarterback. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You do not rank based on hypothetical. You do not rank based on saying, well, if JT Daniels had been their quarterback a few weeks ago, they maybe would have beat Florida. Maybe they would have hung with them closer. Who knows? You don't do that. You base them off of how they've played this season, how they played last week. Georgia did not play well last week. They did not play well last week. Say what you want. Maybe they were beat up. Running game wasn't existent. Whatever you want to say, I don't care. They are not a top 10 team. Top 15, yeah, we had them at 15th. But 9th, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I have nothing against Georgia. I genuinely don't. But that was the one that blew my mind more than Oklahoma above Iowa State, even more so than BYU being down at 14th, was how you could justify putting in a 2-loss Georgia team in at number 9. 1 spot behind Northwestern, a spot above Miami, who I still don't think is a top 10 team, but certainly should be ranked above Georgia. I just don't get it. That was mind-boggling. Absolutely. I mean, it's just it's speechless. I'm speechless from it. Keto. No, I didn't get a super chat, man. I didn't get anything. At least it hasn't popped up on my end. But I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Make sure don't keep spamming that button. Maybe YouTube's glitchy. I don't want you to end up sending more than you were planning on sending. So, but regardless, I really appreciate it. YouTube does that from time to time. But I appreciate it, Keto. That goes a long way, and now it means a lot. I'm glad to have you here. I haven't seen your comments in a while. I know you've been really busy. So thrilled to have you on the live stream, at least just for a little bit. And hope things are going well. Looking forward to seeing your predictions sometime soon. Yeah, Mitch, I'm going to get to that in a second about the BCS. I'll talk to that here in a second as I catch up. Zane, do I think UCF is a New Year's Six New Year's Six bowl contender next year? I do. I think as long as their offense continues to play at the rate that they are, they will be a New Year's Six bowl contender every single year. Every single year they will be in that contention. They were this year until they lost to Tulsa, which I know was relatively early. Even after they lost to Tulsa, they were still in it. But the problem is, Zane, is the American Athletic Conference is getting better. You know, UCF kind of took everybody by surprise a few years ago. The conference as a whole wasn't quite up to where it is now. You know, Houston was good up there as well. You know, back when Tom Herman was there and you had Greg Ward and guys like that. But now you've got Cincinnati. You know, normally Memphis is really good. Dana Holgorsen is getting Houston to that point. Tulsa now is contending. You know, SMU, East Carolina will get there. I mean, even your lower tier teams are playing decent football, you know, and can play decent football here in a few years. You know, Tulane, East Carolina, Navy, guys like that. So, yeah, I think they are a New Year's Six contender next year, but the conference is tough. And the road to getting there and the road to winning that conference is a lot tougher than it was even just 2 or 3 years ago. Let's see. Neo. Yeah, first time you've seen me live. I'm glad you're actually getting to see it this time. Glad you're able to catch us this time. Like I said, we haven't been doing many live streams this year. It's been a really, really hectic semester, as I know it's been for everybody. You've got the pandemic going on. For me, you've got about a gazillion classes going on, and teachers don't care much about the pandemic. So we're getting by, but we plan on doing this a lot more down the road. Emperor of Rome already giving you a nice welcome. So, Neo, thank you for being here, my man, and hope you're here next week as well when we come back. And it might not be a live stream on Tuesday. We haven't really set on a certain date yet. It's going to depend on the scheduling, but we will have a live stream every week going forward now. And we're going to make sure to give you a heads up, better than we did this week. You know, today was kind of impromptu, but I wanted to get this one out there. Jonathan the Beast, does Iowa State have a chance? I don't know what chance you're talking about. Big 12 title? Yes, for sure. Playoff? No. Iowa State does not have a shot at the playoff, unfortunately. Again, if they had not lost to Louisiana or Oklahoma State, they win one of those two games, then they do have a chance. Data Geek, hey, yes. Yes, sir. Yeah, happy to have you. Yeah, I do know you in real life. I do, yeah. So, yeah, thrilled to have you. I know you might be like Neo. Maybe you haven't seen us live before. So we're thrilled to have you, and glad you could be here. Honestly, glad you all could be here. Hope you're able to provide us with any extra stats that you've got. Brandon, what do I think about Notre Dame? Notre Dame's in a tough position. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I hate this. I hate this for the Fighting Irish, and I hate this for you Fighting Irish fans out there. Notre Dame is maybe in the worst position out of any of the top 4 teams, any of the top 6 teams right now. And here's why. We've criticized Notre Dame, people have at least, for not being a part of a conference. And that not being a part of a conference has hurt their playoff chances for years. They would have to run the table in a non-conference schedule to get in. Well, you know, there were rumors saying, well, if they just joined a conference, they could afford a loss and still get in. Here's the thing. I think Notre Dame wins out up until the ACC title game. I think they beat North Carolina this Friday. I can't remember who they closed with. Maybe Wake Forest, someone like that. I think Notre Dame finishes strong. They win out. which means they'll be undefeated, probably still number 2 in the country when they take on Clemson in the title game. Here's the thing. My prediction could change. I'm waiting to see what happens. But I would like to believe that Clemson beats Notre Dame in the title game. Trevor Lawrence will be healthy, neutral site. Notre Dame loses that game. I don't think the committee puts in a one-loss Notre Dame team. As wrong as that is, I don't think they get it. Even though Notre Dame would have defeated Clemson earlier in the year in South Bend, the committee will say, yeah, they did that, but it was close, 2 overtimes, and Clemson did not have a lot of defensive starters and did not have Trevor Lawrence. Now, with a full-strength Clemson team, you lost, and we're going to boot you out. If Notre Dame gets blown out to Clemson in the title game, I don't have an issue with it. Notre Dame loses 42-17 to Clemson, then sure, drop them out of the top 4. I'm fine with that. Notre Dame loses by a touchdown or less, 1 possession in that title game, they don't deserve to drop out. But I would bet my house, would bet all my money that they will. Because Alabama would get in, let's assume. Clemson with that win would get in. Let's assume Ohio State wins the Big Ten, they're in. So then again, you have that 1-loss Notre Dame, 1-loss A&M, maybe an undefeated Cincinnati. Who gets in? And I guarantee you, Texas A&M will get in, even though, to me, Notre Dame would be more deserving. That's kind of so Notre Dame's in a very tough spot. Notre Dame, unfortunately, even though they are one of just 2 undefeated teams in that top 4 right now, or 3, I guess, if you count Ohio State, of course. Even though they are undefeated, even though they have the quality win, they will not get into the top 4 if they lose the ACC title game, which right now I believe they will. And that's extremely wrong. Eternal Fiend, yes, Auburn, 24.5-point underdogs to Alabama. Very, very crazy. Very, very crazy how much a difference 1 year makes. Auburn beats Alabama last year. Obviously, that was the beginning of the Mac Jones era. Tua Tagovailoa didn't get to play in that game. Auburn wins 48-45, and now they're more than 3 touchdown underdogs. Cyclone Mitch, best chance is Cotton Bowl against A&M for Iowa State. Look, are you going to be disappointed with that? Come on, I'd be thrilled with that. Obviously, playoff would have been fantastic, but a New Year's Six bowl game against Texas A&M, old Big 12 showdown, I think that'd be a pretty awesome game, and I think that would be a must-see New Year's Six showdown. That would be one of my top games of the year for postseason. So, yeah, I think, you look at Iowa State in the Big 12 as a whole, we're going to get a lot of clarity on that conference after Friday afternoon because Iowa State plays Texas. So if Iowa State wins that, Texas is knocked out of Big 12 title contention. Iowa State basically clinches themselves a spot in that title game. If Texas wins, mass chaos ensues because Iowa State, Texas, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State would all have 2 conference losses. And then you'd have to start getting down to those tiebreakers. Because, Iowa State beat Oklahoma. Oklahoma beat Texas. Texas beat Iowa State. Texas also beat Oklahoma State, who beat Iowa State. But Oklahoma State lost to Oklahoma. You're going to have to really sit down and look at the tie-breaking scenarios and also how that final weekend of the season plays out because we have 1 or 2 more following this Thanksgiving weekend, and that'll kind of shape up who we get to see in the Big 12 title game. So right now, though, I picked Iowa State in the preseason. To win the conference, and right now I'm going to stick with that. All right, what else we got here? Slowly but surely catching up here. Nathan Bryan, is Auburn only ranked so high because it'll make Alabama look better? They're 22nd. I had Auburn at 21st, but I agree. I talked to a lot of people in the comments last night on our top 25 video that Auburn is probably the worst top 25 team that I ranked and that the committee ranked. Really, when you sit down and think about it, I don't think Auburn's all that great. Too many close calls this year, and offense is relatively lackluster. Yes, though, the AP poll does that on purpose, Nathan, and there's no doubt in my mind the playoff committee does it too. It's political. They will never admit it, but it is. And I'm not dogging Alabama. I'm not dogging Auburn, but I am saying that it happens all the time. For example, Nathan, just look at the AP poll that came out on Sunday. I know we're going to start disregarding that now because the playoff committee's out, but Notre Dame is playing North Carolina on Friday. Well, before the AP poll came out on Sunday, North Carolina was not ranked. The AP poll then put North Carolina in at 25. So now you have number 2, Notre Dame, number 25, North Carolina, ranked versus ranked showdown. They love ranked versus ranked showdowns. Maybe not necessarily to help a certain team, although I think the playoff committee does that from time to time, but they help it for ratings because let me tell you what, the number 2 team in the country versus a ranked team looks better than the number 2 team in the country versus an unranked team. A ranked versus ranked Iron Bowl looks a lot better than the number 1 team in the country versus an unranked Auburn team. It just does. It's eye candy. It's not how it should be. No one should be ranked unless they truly deserve it, but they do that on purpose. They absolutely do. Anyone that says otherwise, I'm sorry, you're lying to yourself. AP poll would say they don't do it. Committee would say they don't do it, but we all know they do. We all know they do. You know, I hate to say it, but it's like these guys think we're just a bunch of football junkies and that we don't, you know, have a mind of our own and we are unable to think for ourselves and that we're just going to believe and agree with everything that they tell us and they give us. And that's just not the case. Tef, is Boston College really only 1 point better than Louisville? Boston College certainly has a defensive edge in that game. Tef, I want to look deeper into the players for Louisville in that game. Who's playing, who's not? Are there any COVID cases on either side, Boston College or Louisville? That's something that's been a struggle for us this year when it comes to betting. Is you find a team early in the week, you want to jump on them. As the week progresses, you realize that their starting quarterback just got COVID. Now everything changes. So I would do a little more research on that. I will do some more research on that. But I would venture to say Boston College is more than 1 point better than the Cardinals. Louisville just doesn't have the talent and has been such a major disappointment this year. And I think Jerkovic has a very good game in that one. Let's see here. Cole hopes Iowa State plays Georgia in the Cotton Bowl. Dogs will get blown away by a twister. I like it. It'll be a fun game too, Iowa State, Georgia. Although I would venture to say that Cincinnati, if they don't get into the playoff, Cincinnati is going to find themselves against a very good SEC team. So you might see a Cincinnati, Georgia. You might see a Cincinnati, Florida. If Florida does not beat Alabama, Cincinnati is going to play an elite team. I'm curious to see how that plays out. The last time we saw something like that, Cincinnati made the Sugar Bowl back in, what was that, 07? 07, 08, somewhere around there. They played Florida. And they got murdered. Now, I know they played again, or played in another big game later on, but they played Florida and got murdered by Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow. You look at Hawaii many, many years ago, I believe that was 05. Hawaii made the trek out to the Sugar Bowl, played Georgia, got murdered. So we've seen these group of 5 teams get their opportunities that they wish for, the opportunities to play the big dogs and to play in the big games, and they have failed mightily. Not always. Houston beat Florida State a few years ago. Central Florida beat Auburn a few years ago. Central Florida had that win over Baylor, and I believe it was the 2013 Fiesta Bowl. So it's happened. It's possible. But if Cincinnati lands one of those teams, that's going to be their chance to show, hey, we were legit. We could win. We could have held our own in the playoff. Because everybody thinks that if Cincinnati gets in and plays Alabama, plays Clemson, plays Ohio State, that they're just going to get obliterated. I feel like this team's a little bit different than that. I feel like this team's a little bit better than that. But I really, really would like to see it. Spybot 117. Do I think that Cincinnati's defense can stop BYU's offense? I do, because I don't think BYU's offense is that much better, if at all, than maybe Central Florida's. If I'm being quite honest with you, Central Florida has one of the most electric and high-powered offenses in the country, and Cincinnati's defense held them to 33 points, which sounds like a lot, but by UCF standards, it's not, especially at the bounce house. So I do think they could shut them down. I really do. BYU, their offense is great, but again, they've been playing a lot of inferior opponents. If anybody in this top 25, you look at it, for the most part, would be a better opponent for BYU than anybody they face this year. If BYU were to face Oregon, Wisconsin, Iowa State, Indiana, Oklahoma, Coastal Carolina even, would love to see BYU Coastal. I mean, any of those opponents for BYU would probably be better than the guys they played, including Boise State in that, because Boise State was so beat up when they played. So That's yeah, I do. I really do. I think Cincinnati's defense could stop BYU's offense. The Massey composite has Georgia ranked 12th. I had Georgia at 15th. 12th is fine with me. Georgia's just not top 10 caliber. Put them at 12th. Fine by me. Massey's got a little bit more right, I think, in this one. Emperor of Rome, 0-3, Akron Zips, biggest snub of all. Hey, Akron's getting there, my man. Akron is getting there. I know they just got blown out by Kent State last week, but they hung with the Golden Flashes for a while, longer than I thought they would. Tom Arth has his team heading in the right direction. They're just, they lost by 14 to Ohio. They got blown out by Kent State, but they were competitive and had their best offensive game ever under Tom Arth. They might rack up at least one win this year, and if they stick with him, I think they'll win a few more in 21. But Zips will get there. Zips will get there. Playoff contenders next year for sure, though, no doubt. Will the 2021 Iowa State game be a top 20, if not top 15 game? Cole, top 20. Yeah, top 20. Cole, rarely do you see Iowa or Iowa State really get much love early in the year, early in the season. Preseason AP top 25, even week 1, week 2. So in 21, I wouldn't expect either team to be ranked very high going into the year. So I would say about a top 20 matchup. Carl Weiser, should Miami be ranked 10th? I had them at 12th. So I'm okay with 10th, I guess. I still don't think they're a top 10 team. But, when I'm looking at the rankings, how the playoff committee has them ranked, I would put them above Oklahoma. I would actually have them under Indiana. I had Indiana at 11th and Miami at 12th. Indiana's at 12th in the playoff committee's rankings. So I don't think they're a top 10 team. I think they're on the right on the outside looking in, but 10th is the best they could have done. If they had been any higher than 10th, I would have been pretty upset. Not because I don't like Miami, just because it wouldn't have made any sense. Just like Georgia being 9th makes no sense. Thoughts on San Jose State, best team since the 50s. Could they win the Mountain West? Well, believe it or not, we broke down San Jose State's game against Boise State on our Week 13 predictions video. Just posted that one today. So if you haven't checked that out, go take a look at our top 5 games of the week. But yeah, look, they're playing extremely well. Brent Brennan's doing fantastic with the Spartans. Nick Starkel, ironic that he was the Arkansas quarterback last year when they lost to San Jose State. Now the quarterback for the Spartans, and he's playing great. 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, taking great care of the football. And I think they could win the Mountain West, although I don't have them beating Boise State on Saturday. But they are absolutely title contenders this year, and not having divisions, I think, has certainly helped their cause. Will Burrow, what do I think about the rumors of Urban Meyer to Texas? That's been talk for a while. A lot of talk for a while about Urban maybe coming out of retirement again. There are only 2 places Urban Meyer will go, though. Texas and USC. Those are the only 2 jobs he would take. I would say Notre Dame would be the other job he would take, but they're not going to get rid of Brian Kelly. No way. So it's either Texas or USC. Both teams are looking okay right now. If USC runs the table and makes the Pac-12 title as an undefeated team, I don't think they get rid of Clay Helton. Texas, I think Tom Herman's fate will be sealed after Friday. If they beat Iowa State and somehow manage to get into the Big 12 title game, win or lose, they keep Tom Herman. They lose to Iowa State, and then maybe they slip up against Kansas State in the season finale, or maybe they lose their bowl game. Tom Herman might be out, and they're going to go hard after Urban. If Texas feels, before they make a decision, I'll tell you this, Will, before they make a decision on Tom Herman, if Texas feels confident they can land Urban Meyer, because we know Texas has the money. We know they've got the money. If they feel confident they can land him, they'll get rid of him. But Texas will not make a decision on Tom Herman until they know for sure they're going to get their guy. That would just be irresponsible. So I don't know. I think it can happen, but I'm very skeptical. Jackson Scholl, how much do you think Texas will move up if they beat Iowa State? Texas is 17th. Iowa State is 13th. I think Texas could get up to 14th. So maybe about 3 spots. I've got a lot of people saying they're trying to super chat, and I'm not sure why it's not working. I appreciate everybody wanting to do that, everybody offering to do that. That means a whole lot. Let me see what the issue there is, if there even is one, and if I can fix that. If not, we will certainly have it fixed for the next show. But I'm honestly not seeing why it's not working. Not seeing why that's an issue here. But I appreciate that, guys. Look, that really does go a long way. I know a lot of people don't think it does. A lot of people say it doesn't. $1, $5, whatever it is, all that money goes back into our production. All that money goes back into helping us continue to grow and make us a better channel and try to continue to bring the best content possible for you guys. So I genuinely appreciate that. I'm not sure why it's not working. I'll take a look at that for our next live stream, though. So if you're planning on donating tonight, save it for next show, because we definitely appreciate it. Let's see. How many games do we think are going to get canceled this week? We've already had 9 or 10 so far that have been postponed or canceled. So, it could get up to 15. I think we had 18 last week. I agree. That's kind of the problem I've had with parlays and betting, placing bets. Obviously, you can get it back, get your money back if they cancel or postpone the game, but you don't want to do all that research and plan all that out and then have the games get canceled. So I feel your pain because I've had it happen to me multiple times this year. It's just hard to tell. We don't know every team's individual, COVID case. We don't know every team's what their coaches are looking like, what their players are looking like, contact tracing. We just don't know. We don't know. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, look at what Florida State did. They canceled the day of the game. We're seeing games canceled day before. You think you're good, and then all of a sudden one person tests positive, and boom, you got to shut everything down because that one person that tests positive practiced with his teammates, went out to dinner with some people, whatever it is, and it's just this giant mess. So I can't give you a good answer on how many I think are going to get canceled because I just don't know the situations. Ryan, BYU at 14. We obviously disagreed with that, weren't happy with that. We were kind of disgusted by that, thought they were kind of slighted. But again, strength of schedule played a major role in that decision. Michael Vay, 023. Iowa comeback, 0-2. They're 3-2. They're looking good. They're looking good. Genuinely. I don't think their wins are all that impressive. Beat Michigan State, murdered them, beat Penn State. That was a good win. Nebraska's coming up this week. Should be able to take care of business against them relatively comfortably, but they're looking good. I mean, to start 0-2 and now rattle off 3 straight wins, again, I don't really care who they're against. If you can rattle 3 straight conference wins, that's a big deal. That's good for them. I don't think they should be 24th in the country, but it is good that they've kind of righted the ship. Matt Campbell to Michigan. I don't know. I tell you what, the biggest coaching figure I want to know what happens to after this year is Luke Fickell. Matt Campbell is getting a lot of attention to possibly go to Michigan, and that's a job that Mitch, you and I have talked about it. I don't know if he could refuse that type of job. But Luke Fickell and the job that he has done at Cincinnati, depending on what happens by season's end, there's a very good chance Fickell might leave for an elite job. I view Michigan as being an elite job. Nebraska, if they get rid of Scott Frost, and they very well could, that's an elite job. So I'll be interested to see where they go, and I'd be interested to see who South Carolina gets as their replacement. Although Billy Napier over at Louisiana, that seems to be the leading candidate to replace Will Muschamp over in Columbia. Austin Knighton agreed. BYU got disrespected so bad. Ryan, no, I don't agree where BYU is in the rankings. I had them up as number 8. Maybe that was too high, again, when you factor in strength of schedule, but they're a top 10 team in my eyes. They're a top 10 team in my eyes. To put them down at 14th, that is disrespectful. It's crazy. Nathan Bryant, assuming they win, what bowl do I see Indiana going to? Nathan, look, if Indiana wins out, they're going to be a one-loss team. They're now going to have to battle against, say Ohio State gets into the playoff. you'd have to look at, what happens to Northwestern. If they're a one-loss team, only loss coming to Ohio State. Indiana could be in contention for a New Year's Six bowl game. But if at, worst case scenario, your Outback Bowl, Citrus Bowl, something like that. And for Indiana, that would be amazing. Be awesome. Walter on his Skater account, cheering for the Irish, thinks they're going to control North Carolina in the second half. Ryan, it is not possible for Notre Dame to move up to number 1 unless Alabama loses, as Scott beat me to it. Scott beat me to that. Alabama's not going anywhere unless they lose. Let's see what else we have here. Joe Heil, go Broncos. Hashtag Maction. Gotta love the Maction. Gotta love the Maction. Brian Korth, hey, happy to have you, man. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've talked and seen you on the channel, so thrilled to have you here. Another YouTuber said Spencer Rattler was a top 5 quarterback in the country. What do I think? I'd like to know what YouTuber that is. I would love to know who said that. Because no, he's not. I mean, look at the top 6 teams alone. I would put Mac Jones in my top 5 right now. Justin Fields in my top 5. Trevor Lawrence, Kyle Trask, right there. Those are 4 quarterbacks out of your top 5. How can you tell me Spencer Rattler's in there? I might even put Ian Book above him. I would probably put Ian Book above him, if I'm being honest. I mean, I might put Sam Ehlinger up there. I mean, Ehlinger carries this Texas team like he's been doing for years now. So, no, Spencer Rattler's good. Don't get me wrong. Good quarterback. But he's just a freshman. Maybe next year, 2 years from now, he could be considered top 5 in the country. But not now. He's hot. He's a major reason Oklahoma's been thriving these past few weeks. No doubt about it. But top 5 in the country, again, Jones, Lawrence, Field, Trask. That's 4 of your top 5. And again, I could make a case for Ian Book. I can make a case for Sam Ehlinger. I can make a case for Zach Wilson over at BYU. I just don't see it. So, yeah, I'd like to know who that is, because that is not even close. Let's see here. Luke Fickle wants to leave the Bearcats next year. What teams do you think should look at him? We kind of talked about that earlier. I think Michigan desperately needs to look at him. I think Nebraska. One other thing you look at with coaching hires, guys, and you don't like to think it's true, and it's not something that always has to be taken into consideration, but is geography. Luke Fickle is coaching in Cincinnati, Ohio right now. You wouldn't necessarily expect Luke Fickle to go take a job out west. Let's just say USC. Not saying he would, but you wouldn't expect that. He's recruiting very well in Ohio. You look at the regions people are in. And you grow up and you're an assistant at some school in the South. You might try to take a head coaching job at some school in the South, and you would expect that school to be looking at you. Geography plays a role because you're looking at how they recruit. You're looking at personality. You're looking at style. The SEC plays a different style of football than the Big Ten. It's just proven. That's how it is. So geography plays a big role in coaching hires, and would play a big role for me as a coach looking for a new job, or as an athletic director looking to hire a new coach. And that's why I think Luke Fickle, being in that Ohio area, is more than likely, if I were him, would take a job in the Big Ten, like Nebraska, because I think Scott Frost's time is running out. Michigan, Jim Harbaugh's got to be done. So places like that, I think, are very, very, reasonable places and destinations for these coaches. And we're going to start wrapping up here in a second, guys. We just hit the hour mark. Time genuinely does fly, but I did have to run tonight at here in about 10 minutes. So we'll slowly but surely start wrapping up here as we answer a few more questions. But let's see. Evan Rogers, do I like North Carolina's chances versus Notre Dame, especially with Notre Dame's offensive line being banged up? We kind of broke that game down a little bit in our Week 13 predictions, Evan. I think North Carolina absolutely has a chance. It's Ian Book and Sam Howell and Javonte Williams and Kyron Williams. But here's the thing. North Carolina's defense has been their downfall all year long. It was their downfall when they played Florida State. It was their downfall Well, it was their downfall against Wake Forest, even though they were lucky to survive Wake Forest. You allowed 52 points in that game. Their downfall against Virginia, that's who they lost to. Florida State and Virginia. Another reason I can't believe North Carolina is 19th in the country when those are your two losses this year. But, yeah, they've got a chance, but they're not going to win the game on the ground because Notre Dame has one of the best rushing defenses in the country. They're allowing less than 90 rushing yards per game. Sam Howell's going to have to do it all by himself. And Howell has kind of hit that sophomore slump this year. He's still good, one of the better quarterbacks in the ACC, but he's hit a bit of a sophomore slump. So I like their chances. I think they have a chance, but I'm still going with Notre Dame. And as Walter mentioned on his Skater account, North Carolina does not have a defense. It's a mismatch. Hey, George, how's it going, man? You're catching us at the tail end here, my man. But it has been a while, and I'm doing great. Doing really, really good, hanging in there. Happy for this little bit of a break, and thrilled to have you here with us tonight, George, even if just for a little bit. Massey Composite has BYU at 6, according to Emperor of Rome. I would say that's a little high. I had BYU at 8th, but I still think they're a top 10 team. Let's see what else. Scott, Brock Purdy to the NFL after this year. He would be unwise to go. Everybody gets that extra year of eligibility, you know. Everybody's got that extra year of eligibility. And NCAA ruled that because of COVID, you could be a senior this year. You can come back next year. So some of these top quarterbacks, like Sam Ehlinger, for example, he can come back to Texas next year if he wants. He's supposed to be gone, but he can stick around for one more year. I know Texas fans would love that. I don't know if he's going to do it. Every single player can come back this year and not lose a year of eligibility. If I'm Brock Purdy, he's been wildly inconsistent this year. He has not played at the level that I expected him to play. Last week against Kansas State was great. By far his best game of the year. But if I were him, I would stick around. I would stay. Chanman, who do I see winning the college football playoff? Look, it's hard to say because I don't know who's going to make it. But right now, the front runner is Alabama. 100% is Alabama. Mitch, do I think Zach Wilson is a top 10 pick? Do I think he's a top 10 pick? I think no. No. This is a good quarterback draft class, guys. You look, Mac Jones might bolt for the NFL after the year that he's had. Kyle Trask may bolt. Ian Book could bolt. Trevor Lawrence, obviously. Justin Fields, obviously. Trey Lance. Let's not forget about him. Trey Lance over at North Dakota State. He will be going pro. A lot of good quarterbacks in this year's draft class. And what we have to understand is the top 10 teams in the NFL draft aren't all going to draft quarterbacks. That's not how it works. So I think he has potential top 10 talent, but I don't think he's a top 10 pick. I think he's the type of guy that you could steal, 20th, 25th. I know a lot of people want the Patriots to get him because Patriots have been wildly inconsistent and need a quarterback of the future because Cam won't be around forever. But I don't think he's a top 10 pick right now. This draft class is just a little too deep, and there are too many quarterbacks that are just better than Zach Wilson right now that should get drafted ahead of him. Andrew, no, Luke Fickell's not leaving. We don't know that, but we're speculating that he might. I mean, he's done a fantastic job with Cincinnati. Unbelievable job with Cincinnati. So I really don't expect him to stick around much longer, especially with so many jobs possibly opening up. Again, Michigan's open. Nebraska's open. South Carolina's open. Fickell, I can almost guarantee you, will not go to South Carolina. And there are plenty more jobs that are going to open across the country by season's end. So you look at those, and I would expect that Luke Fickell is definitely going to be looking at those very closely. And if it feels right, he might jump ship. I know I probably would. Hey, Scott, you too, man. He says he's going to comment this tomorrow. Of course, we do have another video coming out tomorrow. Texas and Iowa State, going to break down that game. But have a very, as he is a Baylor Bear fan, good Thanksgiving. And, of course, definitely wish you all that as well. Have a very great Thanksgiving. Wrapping up here with a few more comments and questions before we wrap up on the night. Make sure I'm not missing anybody here. Joe Heil, he's already subscribed. We got a new subscriber. We need one of those bells or something. So, Joe, thank you. Thank you. I'm thrilled that you love the content, and we are so pumped that we're on the team now. Everybody on here, all over 5,800 people, believe it or not. You're a team member. We have a team of nearly 6,000 people. And so we're thrilled to have you on the team, Joe. And make sure you go check out our website, by the way. You can sign up for our newsletter over there. Trying to get that out as much as we can. Hasn't been as regularly as we want to. We've got some more content and stuff over there, Joe. But I appreciate you subscribing to the channel, man. And we're happy to have you. Happy to have every single one of you. 86 people on the stream tonight, by the way. How about that? All right, as I wrap up here, what else we got? Georgia will go down to South Carolina. Chan, man, I'm not going to forget about it. It came in at 8:16 p.m. on Tuesday. Chan Man's taking Georgia to lose to South Carolina. Bold. Very, very bold, but I don't know about that. Robert, what do I think Georgia finishes this year? I haven't looked at Georgia's rest of their schedule, but I think the rest of their schedule is pretty manageable and favorable. So they're 5-2 right now, 3 games left, so 8-2. Georgia should finish 8-2 if they can finally put together a complete game. You put together a complete game with your running game to complement JT Daniels under center, to go along with the defense that was supposed to be one of the best in the country. All those pieces together makes Georgia a playoff contender. And I'm telling you, if they had started JT Daniels from the start, they could have maybe beat Alabama. Because they were hanging with Alabama in that game for about the first 2.5 quarters. You know, and they all fell apart. Why? Because Stetson Bennett collapsed. I don't know if JT Daniels would have done that. So maybe they beat Alabama. Maybe if their defense isn't so beat up and they also start JT Daniels, maybe they beat Florida because they started very strong against the Gators before they finally got worn down by that offense. Not saying it would have happened, but there's that possibility. Kirby Smart, again, made a terrible, terrible mistake by choosing the wrong quarterback. Something that, again, I don't understand how coaches make those type of mistakes when you've got people like us, fans and analysts and guys who just watch the game, knowing who's the better decision at quarterback, why you continue to ride with somebody that's worse. And I get we're not the ones in the locker room. We're not the ones at practice. We're not the ones coaching them. Coaches, in theory, should know more than we do. But sometimes it's a little too obvious. And Kirby Smart twice now, not starting JT Daniels till later this year and never giving Justin Fields his chance and always riding Jake Fromm. That has really hurt Georgia. Really has hurt Georgia over these past 2 years. Windows where they've had opportunities to win a national championship. Walter's still mad that we didn't tell him that we were in South Bend last year. Look, I'll be back in South Bend very, very soon. I can promise you that. I was actually going to be in South Bend this year and planned on telling you, Walter. I was going to be up there at some point, September or October, and then COVID happened. So I had that planned back in March and April, and COVID happened. But I will be back there very, very soon. And anytime I'm in one of your cities, Walter cities, or if I make it over to Ames or wherever it is, I will certainly give some of you guys a heads up. I'd love to sit down and talk and get to meet some of you guys in person, for real. It'd be pretty awesome. We need to get a watch party or something like that going. All right, I've kind of scrolled. I think we're almost to the bottom here. Almost to the bottom here. Brian, I appreciate you, man. Hey, look. You say it, you know, should have more subscribers. A lot of people have said it in the past. I appreciate it. You know, I want to attest to that. I'm thrilled with where we're at, over 5,800. Hopefully we'll have 6,000 by season's end. We are growing, and we're growing faster than I ever thought we would. So, and it's because of guys like you. So, Brian, I really do appreciate it, man. Really, really do appreciate it. Hey, Data Geek, I appreciate you, man. Hey, thanks for stopping by, and I will definitely tell Dad that I said hello as he continues to hopefully recover here. And everybody else, I think we're about wrapping up as well. Yeah, I think everybody else is kind of chatting with each other. So, and Joe, yeah, last comment I'll make on that. Nice to hear unbiased opinions. You're going to get that every single day here. Every single day. Never biased at all. We don't have any hatred towards any team. We got teams we like. We got teams we support, sure, but we're never going to let that show here. That's the key at the Gridiron Expert. always unbiased analysis 24/7, and the coverage comes 24/7. So, Joe, I really appreciate it. Again, thanks for joining the team, my man. We're so thrilled to have you. So, guys, all right, we hit over a little over an hour. I got to bounce, unfortunately, but we will be back next week with another live stream. And we're going to be back later this week with some more videos. Texas, Iowa State tomorrow. Iron Bowl preview on Friday. There's a little break in between there. Why? It's Thanksgiving. So, guys, seriously, go out there. Have a great Thanksgiving. Stay safe. Stay safe with your friends, your family, whoever you may be spending it with. It's been a wild year so far. It's been a wild year. We haven't maybe been able to see our friends and family as much as we would have liked. Haven't been able to do the things that we wanted to do and things that we may have liked. So go out there, enjoy it. Enjoy the games this weekend. Enjoy the games on Thursday. Stay safe and just have a great Thanksgiving and a great weekend, guys. I really appreciate all of you guys for joining us today. Hot date, Cole. Hey, can't attest to that. Who knows? Maybe. I don't know. Wearing a button down for a reason, though. You guys have a great rest of your night. Thanks again for stopping by. We'll be back next week, and we'll see you next time tomorrow right here on the Gridiron Expert. Good night, everybody.